Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and you are watching The Nerdy Grail. Now, behind me I have got the previous Sony Spider-Man universe, whatever they're calling it, movies that have been released so far. Obviously, Venom the Last Dance is not there yet, but when that eventually comes out physically I will have it. But we got Venom, Venom Let There Be Carnage, Morbius, and Madam Web. Oh, honestly, this universe has been a travesty. Ridiculous it has, if I'm being perfectly honest. The Venom films I actually don't mind too much. Morbius, Matt Smith is the saving grace in Morbius. And Madam Web, we just don't talk about Madam Web. But, however, in this little review, last night, me and my fiance, we decided that on Friday the 13th, might I add, what a day for this film to get released. Friday the 13th. We decided, let's rip the band-aid off, let's finish this universe off, and go and watch Kraven the Hunter. A film that has been delayed so many times in the past. I had to write down a little list of all the times it's been delayed. So originally this was penned for January 13th, 2023. Then it got pushed back to October 6th, 2023. Then it got pushed back to August 30th, 2024. And then it got pushed back again to December 13th, and they finally released it. Was it worth the wait? I mean, I've seen a couple of reviews online. I've seen the scores that it's been getting on like Rotten Tomatoes. People have been ripping this film apart. Saying that it's the worst, Madam Web is actually better. And if I'm being honest, is it a good movie? Hell no. This is definitely not a good movie. I mean, none of them have been real good movies. Some of them have been so bad that they're good, like Morbius. Apart from Venom Let There Be Carnage, I do really have a soft spot for that one. A bit controversial, but I do. I actually don't mind that one. Kraven the Hunter. Look, there is a couple of positives about this, so I will be a little bit fair. But there's so many negatives, and overall, it is not a good movie. It's not a good movie. Is it the worst one in the Sony Spider-Man universe? Again, whatever they're calling it. I know a lot of people are saying it is, but if I'm being honest, I would actually say I still think Madam Web is. And I'd say this one's then maybe just above that. But, I mean, that's not saying much. Because Madam Web is not good. But I'd say this is probably, in my opinion, and I know some people might disagree and people will disagree, but remember, this is just my opinion. I personally do think Kraven is better than Madam Web, but again, that's not saying much. So let me just break this down for you then, give you my brief review on Kraven. So this is the 6th and final installment in that Sony Spider-Man universe, where we're not going to see Spider-Man. So I don't know why you bothered to call it the Spider-Man universe, if I'm being perfectly honest. So it came out yesterday, and our main star is Aaron Taylor-Johnson, who's a really good actor, by the way. He's really good, and he is definitely one of the positives of this film, who plays Sergei Kravinoff, stroke Kraven the Hunter, the character that we all know and love in lots of different interpretations. Like in Marvel Spider-Man 2 and some of the other TV shows, Kraven's a great character, and I love the character of Kraven. They also had Russell Crowe in this movie as well, which I'm wondering, is he going to regret of being part of this movie? Because he plays Nikolai Kravinoff, the father of Kraven, and his brother Dimitri, who we know is the Chameleon. They had lots of different villains and characters that we know in this. You had Kraven, you have Calypso, you have Chameleon, you have the Foreigner, you also have the Rhino, who is the core villain, really, of this film as well, which we'll get onto Rhino in a minute. And then there's this secret doctor character who's been helping to create the Rhino and helps to create the Chameleon at the end, who, if you ever look at the comics or anything like that, turns out to be the Jackal, which is really, really interesting. And me and my fiancé found that out at the end of the movie, and yeah, I remember now. It's brilliant. But yeah, so this movie, the positives of the movie. Let's start with the positives just to get that out of the way. I will say Aaron Taylor-Johnson as Kraven, he does a fairly decent job. I must admit, Aaron Taylor-Johnson is a good Kraven, and he's really interesting. He is funny at times. He's very charismatic. And I did enjoy some of the action scenes that went on. It was very gory at times. This film is rated 15, and you can definitely see how it got its rated 15 certificate, because there's scenes where like he's stabbing them in the neck with like a tooth from like a lion or something, or a saber-toothed tiger. You know, he's fighting lots of animals which are giving him like gashes and scars everywhere. You know, it is very violent at times, this film, which I kind of expected for a Kraven movie, but I didn't know they'd go that hardcore. There was at times where I thought I'd just stepped into the Terrifier movies again. I was like, oh my goodness. So it definitely earns that 15 certificate. It debatably could have been 18, but yeah, definitely earns the 15. So some of the action scenes were good. I must admit, at the end of the movie, because this is a spoiler, but who really cares at this point, his brother Dimitri does get his full chameleon powers where he can transform into other people, and you can then see full chameleon with like the white mask face thing that he usually has. I must admit, the effects on that did look pretty good, and Chameleon did look very accurate and good to like the comics and the shows. I will admit that was really cool. I did like that. That was a nice little surprise. Shame we couldn't have seen that more through the movie, but I suppose it was the build-up. And yeah, I probably... And the locations, I suppose, were all right. You know, they went between like Russia and London in England. There was a couple of chase sequences, like when Kraven's brother gets kidnapped, he chases after them in a car. That was pretty cool, I suppose. Sometimes it looks a bit naff when he's like running on all fours, or proper Spiderman crawling on the walls with his powers. But let's just move on to the negatives, though, because that's about where the positives end. So the negatives, I would say, look, one of the main problems is the pacing of this film is off. It is off. It feels really slow at times. Some stuff moves far too quickly. Some scenes need to be drawn out more or taken back a little bit because there's either too much or too little dialogue, so not enough explanation on some things. Some of the characters are just pointless. One of the core characters in this film, main character, is Calypso, who the actress does a decent job, but Calypso's not needed in this film. At the start, when in like there's a flashback scene to show how Kraven became Kraven and how Calypso became Calypso. And Calypso sort of gets her little powers, and she has this little potion that she gives to Kraven when he's dying because he gets attacked by a lion when on a trip with his dad and brother to prove their strength. You know, you must kill in order to show that you're strong, not be weak. You get taken out of school for that. But Kraven, protecting his brother, gets injured and carried away. Calypso gives him this potion, which activates his Kraven powers, and then he becomes Kraven the Hunter. But her role's then finished after that, because when it fast forwards to the future, she's pointless for the movie. She does not do barely anything. They've put Calypso in there because Calypso and Kraven are usually like bread and butter. You usually can't have one without the other, or it feels weird to have one without the other. So she was just thrown in there, unfortunately. The Rhino, wow. The Rhino. Alexei Saksevich. He was okay, but every time he was on screen, I felt like I wanted to laugh. He was either not expressive enough in what he was saying, or he was being too dramatic in his human form. And there was one point in the movie, and me and my partner, we turned to each other and we just laughed. And I'm still thinking about it now in my head. It's ridiculous. He just lets out this really weird, like almost like bird scream. He just like screeches for a good, I want to say like 20 seconds. And it was just like random. He never does it earlier in the movie. He never does it again. I don't get what that was about. And the effects on the Rhino, oh my God, they were awful. Absolutely horrendous. I couldn't look at him. He was ridiculous looking. And he wasn't even on screen for very long either. He only becomes full Rhino for the final fight, and that lasts about, I don't know, 5 minutes max, if lucky. And just, he gets beaten by Kraven so easily, if I'm honest. Kraven doesn't have much of a fight against him. The Foreigner is an alright character. He seemed a bit OP, if I'm being perfectly honest. and he was able to take down Kraven really easily. Like, they built up Kraven to be this major hunter, this major competitor all through the movie, but he just wasn't against for the foreigner. It was just easy for him. I think also they did make Kraven a little bit too OP in this movie at times, but what can you do? Like I said, the pacing was definitely off. Visually, at times, it was really off. There was one moment in the movie as well where Kraven and Calypso just got off this helicopter or this plane where they'd got back to Russia, and he the sound was off. They obviously were trying to shout over like the blades, but Calypso's line delivery was really off. She felt like a robot. It was really, really weird and very jarring, and I noticed it instantly. So that was off-putting. But yeah, I don't know. This film was just... It was just a jumbled mess. It ends with Kraven actually becoming Kraven. You discover that the secret baddie of the film was actually his dad all along, just trying to set Kraven up. And the film ends, you know, with Kraven being Kraven, Dimitri becoming Chameleon, Rhino's supposedly dead. Calypso is wherever. I don't know. There's just nothing really to be taken from this film. I was very, very disappointed, if I'm being perfectly honest. We waited over 1.5 years of delays for this film, really, more or less, and I don't get why. And to release it on Friday the 13th is just a joke. But at least we can say the Sony Spider-Man universe, unless they decide to weirdly resurrect it, is done and dusted now. Thank goodness. We've had 3 movies this year. We've had Madam Web, terrible. We've had Venom The Last Dance, it is alright, but still probably my least favourite of the Venoms, maybe, I don't know. It's between that and the first one. And then Kraven, which, again, it's not worse than Madam Web, if I'm being honest, but it's definitely not a good movie. It's enjoyable at times, but yeah, it is what it is. But I hope you did enjoy this video. Please like it by giving it a thumbs up. Comment down below. What are your thoughts on Kraven the Hunter? And are you glad to see the end of this Spider-Man universe, or do you want more? And subscribe if you're new. But for now, this is the Nerdy Grail signing off. I hope you've had an amazing day, and I will see you all next time. Bye for now, everyone.